Good evening, I'm Bill Mulholland, and welcome to Good Sports Classics. Tonight, we open up our archives and go back to March of 1996 for one of my all-time favorite Good Sports shows over the last 19 years, an interview with Providence College basketball great Vinnie Ernst. Vinnie talks about his basketball career, from biddy basketball and high school playing in New Jersey to the recruitment over to Providence College and playing for 3 years for legendary basketball coach Joe Mullaney. We have vintage video of the 1960 and 1961 NIT championships described by iconic local sportscaster Chris Clark, and we have some great black and white photos featuring all of the basketball greats from the early 1960s, which all adds up to be a wonderful show. Tragically, Vinnie Ernst passed away of a massive heart attack 3 months after taping this show. So each year, during March Madness, in his memory, we replay this wonderful classic show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this Good Sports Classic. Good evening, I'm Bill Mulholland, and welcome to Good Sports. Before the NCAA's March Madness, there was the NIT at Madison Square Garden. And tonight we're going to take an in-depth look at the glory days and the final years of the National Invitation Tournament at Madison Square Garden with some vintage video featuring the voice of the Friars, Chris Clark, some great old photos, courtesy of the Providence College Sports Information Director, Tom Connor, and some great stories from my guest, Lincoln, Rhode Island resident, former Providence College standout guard, and also the 1961 most valuable player in the National Invitational Tournament, Vinnie Ernst. Welcome to Good Sports, Vinnie.
Thank you very much, Bill. It's a pleasure being here.
Great to have you. Now, Vinnie, you grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and at 11 and 12 years old, you were named Mr. Biddy Basketball of the World, and actually scored 98 points in a game. So that's a little background. Then you went on to go over and play 4 years at St. Aloysius High School, and 3 of your seasons, your team won the New Jersey State title. You actually received over 300 scholarship offers, with the first coming in the 8th grade from legendary coach from Wake Forest, Bones McKinney. Now, Vinnie, why did you choose to attend Providence College?
Well, it was a request from my mother. She asked me a very, very intimate question. She said to me one day, she said, Vinnie, out of all the scholarships that you've received, I'd appreciate it if you do me one favor and go to a Catholic college. And myself, knowing that I would have to go to a school where there was a big fellow that can get the rebound for me, being 5'8", and I also knew that I wanted to stay close to Madison Square Garden, which was the hub of the basketball world in those days. Every major tournament, every major team came into the Garden to play. And it was a choice between St. John's, who had Leroy Ellis, which was a freshman, and Providence College, who had Jimmy Hadnot. And I loved Joe Mullaney, and I decided that if I went to St. John's, it would be like going to high school again, 30 minutes away from where I lived. So I decided on going to Providence College.
Now, how did Mullaney recruit you?
I played in the my high school team. One of the years we won the state championship, was invited to the Escits, which was held in Rogers High School in Newport. It's the Eastern States Catholic Invitation Tournament, and our team played ironically against John Thompson and Tom Hoover in the opening game. And our biggest fellow was 6'7", and they had the two big fellows, Hoover and Thompson, who were 6'10" and 6'11". And Joe Mullaney came down, and he saw me play, and he offered me a scholarship, and he said to me, Vinnie, you'll start for the 3 years that you're here, and I promise you that.
And he was a man of his word.
He certainly was.
Now, 1959, freshmen could not play varsity basketball, yet you still practiced with the varsity, which were led by Lenny Wilkins, Johnny Egan, and Jimmy Hadnot. Tell us about your freshman year, Vinnie.
Freshman year was kind of dull and kind of boring because we couldn't play varsity ball. We had an easy schedule, I think, of 18 or 20 games. There were 4 players on our team that were on scholarship. There was Carl Spencer, George Zalicki, Ray Flynn, and myself. And we played mostly against local colleges. We didn't travel much, and the varsity always practiced after we practiced. And Joe Mullaney used to always ask me to stay so I could cover Lenny Wilkins in practice. Lenny being a senior and I being a freshman.
Yeah, and Lenny really came into his own in his senior year at Providence College. What was it like to go over and practice against Lenny? What type of ball player was he back then?
Oh, everyone knew he was going to go left, and he still went left. He still beat you. And I had a very good asset where I could move laterally very, very well, which Joe Mullaney picked up very quickly. So he asked me to cover Lenny always. So Lenny would always have to stop his dribble. So in practice he did, but during the course of his senior year, no one could move over as quick during his games, and he wound up, as you know, having his greatest year his senior year.
So you still forced him to be a better player by making him move to his right all the time, right?
I wouldn't say I forced him. I mean, Lenny was a great, great athlete, and he still is, you know, the all-time winningest NBA coach, and a very good friend of mine.
Now, your sophomore year, the Friars won the NIT and finished with a 24-5 record. What did Coach Mullaney ask you to do before the start of the season then?
This was very tough on me because all my life, like you mentioned earlier, I scored 98 points in a 24-minute game. In high school, I averaged over 20, 25 points a game. And I passed off also, but Joe said to me before the season started, he said, Vinnie, I'd like you to try to sacrifice yourself and take charge and run the ball club and let Johnny do the outside shooting, and we have Jimmy Haddon underneath. I want you to be more of a playmaker. And it turned out well for me because I still hold the longest record in PC's history with the most assists. I have 17 in one game.
And that's still the record at PC?
Still the record.
Right. What type of transition was that for you to turn from what, let's go into the terminology of the 90s, from a shooting guard to a point guard? Was that difficult?
It was difficult to the point where, you know, when you're constantly always looking for your shot and then passing off at the last minute, and then all of a sudden have to worrying about bringing the ball up court and trying to set everyone else up. And it was a big transition, especially for doing this all my life, being a scoring guard and, you know, having all these scholarship offers. They weren't handing them out in those days just because you could pass the basketball.
Sure. Now describe the atmosphere at Alumni Hall during the 1960-61 season.
If anything in my life, I can remember this. It was the greatest feeling of a ball player playing in Alumni Hall, which seated 3,300 people.
And we have a picture of that, in fact, right, against Brown University?
Yep. That's one of the games at home.
Was it electric back then?
Every game we played was electric. It was jam-packed, and what was great in those days was that everyone in the community was involved. Not only alumni, students, but friends, because after the game was over with, we usually stayed on the court, and the people came down from the stands. They could come down and get on the floor, and we talked to them. We were invited to their houses. We were more of a community and more friendliness, more so than today, as you all know, that today they play at the Civic Center. After the game, they go right down into the dressing room. Not many alumni, not many friends, not many family can actually speak to the players. They can't spend much time with them because they have to get off the court.
Yeah, so it made for more of a rabid fan because they had a particular interest in one of the players because they might have talked to him after the game, or you were nice to him, or even actually had supper over their house.
Right, and asking for tickets for the next game and trying to get them extra tickets, and it was really a tremendous atmosphere in those days.
Yeah. Now, why did Coach Mullaney, you finished 20-5 in the regular season, why did he choose to go over and participate in the NIT as opposed to the NCAA? Because the NCAA championships were going back on during those years.
Oh yeah, but the NIT was probably the most prestigious tournament in the whole country. The NCAA had 16 teams invited, the NIT had 16 teams. But the big difference was that the NIT was played at Madison Square Garden, the hub of basketball world. The basketball writers of New York were there. It was on television. In fact, that sophomore year, we were on television 4 times.
National TV?
National TV on 4 different occasions. We opened up against DePaul on a Saturday. We were on national television. We played that Tuesday against Niagara, which was on national television. And Holy Cross game, that Thursday night, was on national television. And the finals was against St. Louis, and it was on national television. And plus the fact is the school made a little bit more money by playing at Madison Square Garden, and plus the student body, the alumni, friends, and residents of Rhode Island could get to New York much easier to watch the games. rather than playing in the NCAA, which you might wind up playing in, Nebraska, or there was no really great location, and it wasn't on TV all the time.
Right, so was it the choice of Coach Mulholland? Could you have gone to the NCAAs if you wanted to?
I believe that first year we really took the invite first for the NIT. And I think later on, my senior year, I think we were invited to both of them at the same time, but we took the NIT again.
Well, Vinnie, the Friars ended the season with an away loss at Holy Cross, but that would not be the last two times that that you would meet. You brought along some vintage video, the 1961 NIT, with the voice of the Friars, Chris Clark, describing that. Let's run that tape and bring back some old memories.
And for the third straight year, Coach Joe Mullaney's Providence College Friars are participating in the NIT, one of the two major postseason tournaments. In the two previous years, the Friars had played the nation's great teams, losing out in the semifinal game in 1959 to St. John's, and then going down to the wire last year before losing to Bradley in the last minutes of a final round game. During the 60-61 season, PC had won 20 games and lost 5. It was felt that this team was not as good as previous NIT teams, but nevertheless, the potential for tournament victory was there, and win they did. Demons from Chicago wasted no time in the early seconds of the game. Their number one offensive threat was 5'10" Howie Carl there, but it was forward Jim Fleming who picked up the first basket of the game, and DePaul led PC 2-0. It was close for the first 5 or 6 minutes, with just 2 points separating the teams for the most part. But the Friars opened up a lead. Watch PC on the move here, and Vinnie Ernst will hit one for Providence College. Game, big Jimmy Hadnot really put it on ice by sinking 2 free throws. And the Friars had won the first one in the NIT. 7. And at Madison Square Garden, the semifinals of the NIT. It's an all-New England affair with 2 old rivals, Providence College and the Crusaders of Holy Cross. And the Crusaders have quite a throng down from Worcester to root them home to victory. It's the Friars in dark uniforms and Holy Cross in the light. And it's a packed house at tap-off time, 18,000 plus over the lead with about 7 minutes left in the first half. The Friars came roaring back to go out in front. And this was to be a most momentous evening in the young life of PC sophomore guard Vinnie Ernst, who scores on this play. Providence College led by 4, 43-39. Egan and Hadnot had led the first half offensive, with Johnny scoring 12 points. Jimmy Hadnot had 11. Ernst chipped in with 6. He scored 2 field goals in the exciting second half, and this is one of his buckets. Day at the line now. Very little time remaining in the ball game. And he makes it, and it's 75-73. Seconds to go. And it's an all-court press. They've got to get that ball back for a tying basket. And Shea and Blaney combine on a steal. The drive by Blaney will be successful. Watch as they steal that ball away. There goes Blaney.
Now, Vinnie, set the scene. We just saw Holy Cross scored, tied the game up. Game's winding down, the final seconds. What's happening now?
Jimmy Hadnot grabs the ball, takes it out of the net, grabs it, steps out of bounds, and I take off down the court. The ball is thrown to half court, and they throw the ball down to me. I catch the ball. I'm in the middle of act of shooting, and Timmy Shea bangs me on the arm. And with this, simultaneously, the buzzer goes off.
Bedlam.
Bedlam. It was unbelievable. The crowd goes crazy. The referees, the coaches, they don't know whether the game is over or whether I'm going to go, tied and go into overtime, or whether I'm going to go to the foul line. So what happens after about 5 or 10 minutes, the referee decided, yes, I go to the foul line. By all right, I should have gotten 2 foul shots, but they gave me 1 because the referee did not want to offend anybody. I really believe it. So he gives me 1 foul shot. And that year, I only missed maybe 8, 10 foul shots all year long. I was one of the best foul shooters on PC. And I go to the foul line. The referee hands me the ball. And in those days, Madison Square Garden had the guide wires coming off the basket. And every time I went to the foul line, they started, all the Holy Cross fans started shaking the basket. So the basket was moving like this. So I turned and I threw the ball to the referee. And he says to me, okay, let's go back. So I go back to the line, and sure enough, the exact same thing happens. The referee goes over to the score table, sends up the police to keep everyone away from the line, from all the guide wires, and they give me the ball back again. And I go to the foul line, and I take, like I always did, took my time taking a foul shot. I said my little Hail Mary, and I went to the foul line, I took the foul shot, and I missed the foul shot.
All right, and that sets the scene right now. So let's go back. Let's run the tape right now, and we'll see that foul shot and the rest of the 1961 NIT. And Vinnie, instead of Chris Clark, you can describe the action of what's happening here. Here we are, the Bedlam now, and you'll be going to the foul line in just a quick second here. 75-75.
All right?
Oh, and then...
Nope. This is the overtime, I believe now. Yep, this is the overtime period. The score is tied, and this is the first opening play. And I cut down the middle, and Jimmy Hadnot throws the ball to me, and I get the first 2 points in the overtime.
Yeah, was he a good passing big man?
Jimmy, yes, he was. He was. He always kept alert, and if you were clear, he definitely threw the ball to you. Here is Johnny Egan and myself coming down on a fast break, and Johnny scored the basket. And they were trying to put a pressure. So it was George Blaney covering me now, who's now the coach at Seton Hall. Number 12, he's on Johnny Egan. Johnny scores the basket, and he got fouled.
Was he a powerful guard? I mean, you know, a good, solid guy to go over and lay the ball up like that?
Johnny Egan? Oh,
yeah.
yes. Johnny was a super, super ball player.
Look at this play by Vinnie Ernst. By all five, lays it up and in. Wonderful shot. Now, was that by design, Vin?
Well, when I missed the foul shot, when we get back to the huddle, Joe Mulholland says, Vinnie, just play your own game. And I just decided that, you know, from now on, I'm just going to play like I used to always play and take every advantage I could possibly take.
Yeah.
And that particular time, it just proved that I had the opportunity, and I didn't have to take any outside shots. The lanes were open because they were.
And now here you are. You beat Holy Cross, and now you're playing in the finals against who?
Against St. Louis. St. Louis was favored to win the tournament that year.
Oh, were they?
Yep, and we were underdogs. They had a big fellow by the name of Bill Nordman, who was 6'11", and they had a fellow, a real good player by the name of Kiefer, a good jump shooter. And we were in the ball game most of the game. There's a nice little pass.
Was that an alley-oop? Was that an intentional alley-oop?
The big Z.
Yeah.
George Zalicki had a great game. He's the one who kept us in the game. It was probably his greatest college game.
And there it is. You won the game.
This is the finals, and this is the jubilation of our team and the fans.
First big championship by Providence College.
The first national championship.
And you're receiving the MVP trophy?
Yep.
Now, whatever became of the MVP trophy, Vin?
Well, my mother and father were at the game, and it was my mother's birthday, and I walked over after the game with the cup, and I gave the cup to my mother, and I said, Mom, happy birthday. And my mother's taken it with many, many trophies I had, and that was the one that she cherished the most.
Crown jewel, huh?
That was her gift.
Nice. Now let's move on to your junior year. Now, at the start of the season, you were in the preseason poll. You were ranked 3rd in the country coming off the NIT championship. Who were some of the key players on the in your junior year on the team?
That year was supposed to be our best year of all 3 years that I played at Providence College, because we had Jimmy Hadnot, who was a senior.
Yeah.
I was going to be a junior, and John Thompson was a sophomore. We had 2 fellows that are 7 foot, and myself. And myself being the most valuable player the year before, preseason pick, we were number 3. It just happened that our team could not coordinate. Jimmy Hadnot and John Thompson had difficulty trying to play the low post together. Joe Mulholland, as the greatest coach he was, tried to interchange them, play one high, play one low. He tried every combination possible to take advantage of both ball players. And we just could never put it together. I mean, we only lost 6 games that year, but still, we should have really done better because of the size and the ball handling that we had.
Now, with a 20-6 record that you finished with, and another NIT invitation, were there? You talked about the problems that Mullaney had with Hadnot and Thompson. How did the 2 big men get along? Did Hadnot feel a little bad that they were bringing in this big sophomore coming in with his senior year coming in?
Oh, no, not at all. There was always, you know, tremendous camaraderie with all the players. We never had any problem. Joe Mullaney made sure of that. He always kept everyone happy. And we really, you know, they really got along very, very well together. It was just the fact is that sometimes Jimmy would have to sit down and John would play the low post. And, you know, there was just not really the great mixture that you should have on a great ball club.
Yeah. Now, as a point guard, were you still the point guard back then, too?
Oh, yes.
You know, now you must have been drooling having two big guys like that you could easily pass it into.
Oh, I did, but, you know, like John Thompson had problems with his hands, and he had problems with his eyes. So this was a lot of problems we had. John Thompson originally wore glasses, then he wore contact lenses, then he used glue on his fingers to stick them, and he had it on his sneakers, and it kept getting on the ball all the time, and I used to get really ticked off because trying to dribble the ball with this stick-em on him. But, you know, this is the problems you have as being, you know, John Thompson wanted to prove himself as a great ball player that he was going to be, but he just couldn't do it that year.
All right. Now, the Friars suffered a overtime loss to Temple in the quarterfinal round of the NIT in your junior year. Talk about the game.
It really wasn't really much. It was a game where Temple was good. They were always good. They had a fellow by the name of Bruce Drysdale on the team, a hell of a guard, and they had enough height. And it was in Madison Square Garden, and they just outplayed us. We should have taken advantage of a couple of situations, which we never did, and we wound up losing in overtime. There was no big thing. It was like losing another game, except that it was in the NIT.
And that was Hadnot's last year.
It was Jimmy Hadnot's last year.
So now you move on to your senior year, and you culminate your Friar career with another NIT championship and a final record of 25-4. The Friars starting five that year was John Thompson at center, Jimmy Stone and Bob Kowalski at forward, and Ray Flynn and yourself at the guard positions. Now, midway through the season, the Friars lost to St. Bonaventures. What happened after that game?
Well, just before our game, I shouldn't say just before, we were playing against Dayton in Madison Square Garden, and we were losing, and someone asked Joe Mullaney not to come into the dressing room. And myself and Ray Flynn started talking. And we didn't really scream at the players, but we started talking to them, and we said to John Thompson, John, from now on, every time you get the ball off the boards, look for me, I'll be in the middle. Throw the ball to me. Jimmy Stone, fill the lane. Ray Flynn, fill the lane. When we play against zones from now on, Ray's going to be the outside shooter. If they play as man-to-man, and John, you have a shorter man on you, we're going to throw the ball down low to you. We're going to keep it basic, but every chance we get, we're going to run, and we're going to run. And what turned out, Joe Mullaney came back in. That was the game that I wound up with 17 assists in, and from that game on, we never lost the game, and we went right through the NIT, winning the championship again.
Do you think your conversation, were you and Ray Flynn co-captains that year?
No, Ray was the captain, and I was the ball handler.
Right. And do you think it had more of an impact coming from the two seniors talking to the team as opposed to Coach Mullaney?
Yes, reason being is that we didn't want to walk out like, you know, Jimmy Hadnot did the year before of losing a game in the NIT. We wanted to be able to get into the tournament and hopefully go all the way. And we knew we had the talent, we knew we had the material. The trouble is we never really put it together because we lost 4 games early, and then from that point on, we never lost a game again.
Now, Providence College began the NIT with a grudge match against Miami, who beat the Friars in the second game of the season at Alumni Hall. Tell us about the game, Vinnie.
Well, the game against us in Providence College, they have a big fellow by the name of McCoy who was 7'2". They had Rick Barry, and they had a hell of a guard. And they really did a good job on us, beating us up at our place. But now we play against them in the NIT, the opening round. Yeah. And we're doing very, very well. We're beating them by, you know, quite a few points. And all of a sudden, they put a run on Rick Barry and the big kid, McCoy, were having great games. And finally, it gets down to a 3 or 4 point spread. And all of a sudden, Rick Barry fouls Ray Flynn. And with this, Rick Barry grabs a hold of the ball, slams it to the floor, goes all the way up to the ceiling. The ref calls a technical on him, and Ray Flynn goes to the line, makes 3 foul shots. But the key to this was, after the ball game, all the reporters went down to the dressing room, and then they came into our dressing room. And they went to Rick Barry, and they said to Rick Barry, what's the story? You know, what do you think of Vinnie Ernst as a ball player? And Rick Barry says, well, Ernst gets away with murder because he's so small. He steps on people's feet, he pulls their shirt, he pulls on their pants. What do you think about this? I says, I think Rick Barry's a great ball player. He's going to be one of the greatest ball players in all of pro basketball. So the article comes out in the paper the next day. Barry says Ernst fouls. Ernst says Barry's great. So I cut the article out and I sent it down to the University of Miami, attention of Rick, and I put a little note. And I said, Rick, a little lesson for you. Never mock somebody who's on top. And to this day, Rick and I have been good friends.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Now, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. Let's talk us through the semifinal game against Marquette in the finals where you faced a Canisius team that, like Miami, defeated you earlier in the season.
Okay, Marquette game was a very easy game for us because they played a zone and Ray Flynn had a field day. I mean, it was always open. We swung the ball around. Ray became really the shooter, and Ray didn't miss many. If he ever played today with a three-point, he'd probably be the all-time leading Providence college scorer. Against Canisius, it was almost the exact same thing. Our starting team, we devastated them so much with our fast break and taking charge so early. I think all 5 starters were out of the game just after the halftime, and we didn't play anymore after that. I think we beat them, I don't know, by 10 or 15 points easy, but it was like the second team and the third team playing at that particular time.
So you ended up with 2 NIT championships out of the 3 years that you were at PC.
Right.
What was it like playing for the coaching legend, Joe Mullaney?
It was the greatest. Joe Mullaney was probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest coaches that God ever put on this earth. Not only could Joe coach, but he always could foresee what was going to happen. He'd always be able to change his defenses around. He was more of a defensive coach than he was an offensive coach.
Sure.
And primarily, he's the one of the instigators of the matchup man-to-man zone defense. And a lot of coaches today are still using it.
Yeah. Now, did PC go over and generate their offense off of their defense, like a lot of the coaches are talking about nowadays?
Yeah, in those days, what we had to do, like I said, we started running, and we started really taking advantage of our offense that way, and so we wouldn't have to come down and set up an offensive little plays here and there, because we didn't really have many plays underneath Joe. We either fast broke, or we set up 2-on-2s, 1-on-1s, clear-outs.
Vinnie, we've got about a minute left. Vinnie, after 35 years after the Friars' first championship, are there any new challenges for you out there?
Yes, my wife and I are in partners with Jason and Beth Brown in the new Capitol Grill, which is located at 370 Richmond Street, Providence.
Cactus?
Cactus Grill. And the place is located in Providence, right near Davol Square. The old Cactus Grill used to serve primarily Mexican food, but with the help of our executive chef, Wayne Clark, we now have a Mexican, Cajun, and Southwestern food. We have a very friendly bar staff in Stu, Dave, and Eric. I will be the host, so I appreciate anybody coming down and trying our food. They want to talk sports, or they want to reminisce about the old PC days. I'll be very happy to accommodate them. We intend on opening for dinner this coming Wednesday or Thursday evening, and we're going to hopefully open for lunch the first week in April. And that's really basically what we're going to be doing.
Great. Well, good luck with the Cactus Grill, and it was great having you on, Vinnie. I think a lot of people don't know that Vinnie Ernst, one of the great all-time PC Friars, lives in Lincoln, Rhode Island, so that's great, and it's great bringing back some old memories. We appreciate having you here, Vinnie.
Thank you very much, Bill, for having me.
You're very welcome. The topic on the next Good Sports, we'll be talking with Winter Sports Champions, which will be featuring the St. Raphael Academy Class A Boys Basketball Championship team. I'm Bill Mulholland for Good Sport. Good night. All right, that worked out well. Yeah.